This picture was drawn by me and colored by the lovely Vanessa Mattei. If you like this and more, remember to follow us on all the social networks that we're on. One Piece, Chapter 203, Crocodile-ish.
Oh, the shit is getting thick now. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the epic and timeless tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with, at the end, really everything kind of looking pretty grim. Luffy had passed out from loss of blood, maybe dehydration, combination of the two, and maybe some other things as well. And there was 4 minutes until the until the huge cannon was going to be fired into the square, decimating everything 3 miles within a 3-mile radius, and really just wasn't looking very good. Of course, we had Nico Robin had been led down to the Poneglyph in the mausoleum, and King Cobra was watching her kind of read it or what have you, decipher the hieroglyphics. That's where things left off, and that's where things pick up right here. Is we wind up seeing immediately, because of course Croc was descending those stairs down into the mausoleum. He comes down in there, and he's like, hey, okay, can you read the Poneglyph, and she says, yeah, I read it, and this and that. And she even asks, prior to him coming down, prior to Croc walking up in there, she asks, Cobra, is there, because he's like, hey, did you find what you needed, and she goes, is there anything else, is there any other Poneglyphs around here in, in Alabasta? And he's like, no, why, and she doesn't reveal or say anything. She kind of keeps her cards close to her chest there with things. And he says, I held up my end of the bargain. She says, yeah, that's right, you did. And then that's when Croc walks in, and Croc goes, and he's like, oh, were you able to decipher the Poneglyph, And she says, yes, I was. And he's like, oh, read it to me then. What did it say? So she starts going into this thing, and she's like, Alabasta was taken over by and then the ruler of this, and this is when this was erected, and she starts giving the history of Alabasta, right? And Croc's like, no, not that. I want to know the location of the Pluton, the ultimate weapon, the world's strongest weapon. And which I still don't know what the hell it is, but I can only assume that it's some kind of nuke-like device, right? And she says, she goes, that's not contained here. It's simply the history of Alabasta, And there's no mention of Pluton at all, right? So Croc goes in without even skipping a beat, man. This is the type of douchey bastard that he is, and that's why that's why I refer lovingly to him as like a dick with eyes. He's a villain that certainly is despicable and despised, and regardless of ones that may come in future arcs or chapters or what have you, right now he's the biggest asshole that I've seen around, just for some of the different things that he's done. So, and this certainly is one of the things that takes the cake. Now, keep in mind that Nico Robin has been with him for 4 years, his partner in crime, building up Baroque works, doing all these different things, right? Well, he goes and he's just like, okay, well, I'm sorry to say, but our partnership is going to end now, Nico Robin. I'm going to kill you. And he goes and he's like, and takes a swipe at her, And it looks like he hits her because she's got some blood or whatever, But she goes and she's like, you idiot. I was by your side for 4 years and everything else and watched all the shit that you pulled and helped you with everything else. Do you really think that I wasn't going to anticipate you trying to do this and just do away with me? Because at first she's like, wait, hold on a second, what's the deal, And he goes and he says, well, our deal was, you came to me saying that if I brought you, that, if we went to Alabasta and then if I was able to get you here, that you'd be able to go into this royal mausoleum, you'd be able to read this and give me the location of the Pluton. The location's not here, so our deal is done, And that's just kind of his thought process and things. Our deal's done. I don't need you anymore, And she's like, but it's kind of cool, though, because she's like, you think that I didn't see your backstabbing coming, you piece of shit? So she goes in, and it's cool because she pulls out this, like, vial of water or whatever, and she goes to whip it at him. He's like, oh, water. And then it's cool because you see him, looking all cool and stoic with his little fur, his little mink, whatever he has there, and his hook and everything like that. And an arm, one of her arms, of course, with her, using her devil fruit powers, comes out of his shoulder and catches this vial of water or whatever. And she's like, as soon as I, get you wet or whatever, you can be stabbed with this knife. So as she goes to go, and crush this water over him or whatever, all of a sudden, he just disappears. She's got the knife pulled out. She's ready to go. And she's like, what the hell? He disappeared. He reappears behind her. And I mean, he just skewers her. And you thought it was bad when you saw Luffy or whatever. This is terrible. And I don't know if it's just because, she's a female and it's a thinner frame, on her. But I mean, it just looks brutal the way this hook goes in her back and comes out the upper part of her chest. And it does not look good for her at all. And certainly I know that you know, Oda doesn't like to kill characters and everything else and whatnot, but I mean, this is just brutal looking. So however she's going to come back from this, if she does, it's not going to be an easy journey. At least not, like I said, not how it appears, because he just ran her through, you know. So he goes and drops her ass on the ground, and he's just, and he's such a heartless prick too, because he's just like, don't worry, I'm not angry at you, or I'm not, it's just business, you know, this is just how things are, you know. He's like, I'll go and, you know, soon I'll be the ruler of Alabasta, and then I'll find the Pluton anyway, you know, basically just tear the kingdom apart, do whatever I gotta do, but that's what I want, so I'm gonna get it, you know. So, then he goes and he's like, what the hell? And there's like a rumbling that starts to happen after that. And he's like, what? There's still a few minutes until the cannon's supposed to go off in the square, you know? And, you know, so it can't be that, right? And King Cobra's like, and he's like, looks at Cobra and he's like, what did you do? And Cobra was being held by one of Nico Robin's arms. It was like sticking out of his back or whatever. So I can only assume that he became freed. His hands were being held behind his back by her, you know, almost like handcuffed. That as soon as she went down and is either passed out, dying, dead, whatever, that her arm obviously released him, because he goes and he's like, by removing this small pillar or whatever, you know, it's going to cause a chain reaction for the whole mausoleum to collapse in on itself. You know, I don't know if it was like a safety measure for if anybody ever got down there or whatever, you know, that they could pull the plug real quick, whatever the deal may be. He's like, so you two idiots will be buried here with me, you know. So Croc's like, oh, God, what a kingly bastard you are. Because he goes and he's like, I was the 12th ruler of Alabasta and this and that. He gives this speech and he's like, what a kingly fella you are. You know, he's like, he goes, but it's all for nothing anyway. You're going to go and kill yourself, bury yourself here to try to get me. First of all, Croc can be turned to sand if he wants. That's not going to work anyway, right? Which to me was kind of a stupid, you know, thing that he did. And second of all, Croc goes and he just says, he's like, I'll just go and dry up everything in here and turn all the blocks into sand, and it'll all just harmlessly come down. Everybody's going to be blown up in a few minutes. Your kingdom's fucked, buddy, you know? And it's just Croc being a dick. Just being a real dick is what it was, you know? So we wind up getting, and then that's the first half of the chapter, maybe, you know, that's where a lot of the meat and potatoes is. But then after that, you wind up going and you see Vivi, and Vivi's running around feverishly. She winds up going and tripping and falling. She cuts her leg up and everything like that. And she's just like, God, I only got 2.5 minutes until this cannon's going to go off. Where could it be? Where could they hide something big enough to take out a 3-mile radius of... I mean, that's a pretty big damn cannon, okay? Because 3 miles is a far away. Even if you fire something in the center of it, you're talking like, that's some shit that they'd fire like a cruise missile off of a goddamn aircraft carrier or destroyer out in the ocean, you know? I mean, that's big. So, and I don't even know what the type of radius would be from an explosion like that, but 3 miles is a lot, okay? So she's like thinking and she's thinking, and then all of a sudden it goes and it hits her, and she thinks about this childhood place where Koza would hide, and they were like, oh, and it's a little flashback thing. That's not fair, you hid there, and this and that. And she's like, son of a bitch, it's secluded, nobody knows about it. So she's by Usopp, she grabs Usopp, and she's like, Usopp, and then it's like a stray bullet comes by Usopp right then from one of the rebels, I think, or something. And Usopp's like, damn it, what the hell? He's like, I'm not one of you stupid rebels, you know, he's Usopp Star, you know. Well, this is all going on. She's like, I figured it out, you know. And he's like, are you sure? You know, I'll call everybody then. She's like, yes, I am. So he goes and he fires this red star up in the air, and that's got to be like a signal star, you know. And you see this thing go up over Alabarna, and then all of a sudden you see everybody looking up. You see Chopper and you see Zoro, and I mean they're all just beaten, messed up from their individual battles, right, with the Baroque Works agents. But they're still trying to feverishly stop this. Otherwise, it's going to be the end of everybody, at least within a 3-mile radius. So, certainly not good. And that's where a lot of the rebels and, of course, the Royal Army is. So it's going to take out the majority of the fighting people in the country all in one fell swoop if this bomb can go off, or this cannon can be fired. So anyway, you know that they're going to all come together. You kind of see them all look up, you know, and the bat signal has gone up. So they're all going to have a meeting at the Bat Cave and get together. The last few pages, though, is kind of funny because the chapter was called Crocodile-ish, right? And I always say stuff like that. Like, I'll just be like, that's kind of smelly-ish, you know, or you're kind of cute-ish. And so I just thought this was funny. I was wondering where the whole crocodile-ish thing came from, right? Well, Luffy goes and gets up, because if you remember, he kind of passed out from that loss of blood and just exhaustion, what have you, you know, being run through by Croc, all that other stuff, being turned into Luffy jerky. He gets up, and he's just like, whoa, Jesus, I must have fell asleep for a nap over there. He's kind of out of it, you know. He's like, I must have fell asleep for a few minutes, kind of dusting himself off. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, Croc, that's it. And he's like, I got to go get him, you know. I got to go kick his ass. So he gets up and he's of course still going towards the mausoleum or whatever, and he goes and he sees the the stairway that's going down. And Croc, of course, is down there starting to dry everything up and whatnot, And he goes and he's just like, oh, well, that looks crocodile-ish. And that's how the chapter ends, So I tell you, this stuff is just so much fun. It really, really is good. And it's really hard to put it down and to actually go and record this. It's neat because it makes me go back and relive and kind of think of all those things and kind of put them into words as if I'm having a conversation or like a group book discussion or something like that, like I'm in a book club. But at the same time, it's just like, God damn, I just want to read the next chapter. So I'm going to wind up getting to that in just a minute. My chapter question, though, ultimately is, as far as Luffy goes, what do you think about his, I guess, just his overall demeanor? Yeah, and by that I mean like his just kind of attitude towards things, At first, and for the first 60, 70 chapters until probably the Bratier arc, I just thought he was kind of a dim-witted fool, And some of the things he does I still think are really stupid. But ultimately, I've gained a lot of respect for him, and I just like his demeanor. I like how he just goes and passes out, right, from what he thinks is a minor wound and all this other stuff that's been going on. And he figures, hey, I should have been good. I ate enough meat. Passes out, wakes back up, and within a few seconds is like, oh, yeah. And he's just got that singular focus, those horse blinders on, man. And he's just like, oh, I got to kick Croc's ass, What do you think of Luffy and just his, and at this point in the story too, because I don't know what he does 300, 400 chapters from now, but what do you think about Luffy at this point now and his just kind of his attitude, his demeanor, and just how he is, his whole makeup as a character? So as he's obviously the main character in the story here. So leave your answer to that question in the comments down below, brothers and sisters. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button, if you think I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching you in the next one, nation.
And if you don't want an asshole like this that are laughing at you, brothers and sisters, you better subscribe.